And I am now turning my focus to nurses wellness.
Okay.
And the burnout that's happening in our profession.
That's great.
Because we're losing a lot of nurses. And I think one major thing for the public to know, I think a lot of the public hears this word nursing shortage.
Right.
But I don't think people really might understand where this is coming from.
Yeah.
Coming to you straight from Fremont, California, this is the Fremont Podcast, dedicated to telling the stories of the past and present of the people and places of the city of Fremont, one conversation at a time.
Hello, Fremont. This is Mukul. We are on the Alameda Creek Trail, and you are listening to episode 54 of the Fremont Podcast.
Now, here's your host, Ricky B.
So I'm going to go ahead and jump into it then. Today I am joined by Angela and Tracy, and among other things, they work together at a studio where they teach yoga and anything else specifically at the studio that you guys teach?
The retreats.
Mm-hmm.
We host retreats okay. At Mind, Body, Zone.
Okay, we'll talk about that in just a little bit, but I want to get to know you guys a little bit first. Angela, tell me a little bit about your story. Where are you from, and how long have you been in Fremont?
Okay, so my name is Angela, and I'm a single mom of 2 adult daughters and a grandmother of 3 beautiful, adorable grandkids.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I'm also a certified health coach and a yoga teacher. And I specialize in prenatal and restorative yoga.
Okay.
And I have other trainings on meditation, trauma-informed yoga.
Yeah.
And I'm a seeker of truth.
Okay.
And I believe we're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Okay, that's awesome. I like that. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Brazil.
Okay.
And I have been in Bay Area for about 20 years.
Okay. When did this become an interest to you? Was this something that you were interested while you were in Brazil, or is this influenced by any of your experience in Brazil, or is this something that's been more recent in your life that you've kind of like started diving into these practices of spirituality and yoga and so on? Or is this something that you've been doing for a long time?
No, it's actually, since I came to live in USA, I, as an immigrant, I work hard, and I was a single mom, and I have to deal with the stress, and also have a hard time adjusting with the food that I was eating and the lifestyle. That was very different. Yeah. So I became overweight.
I'm going to ask a question on that. I am curious because Fremont's made up of so many different immigrants from so many different places around the world, and I'm just curious because you guys are in the business of, and I don't want to make that sound too corporate, but what you guys do is you help people with their stress and with among other things. You guys, so I'm just curious if you yourself are an immigrant, and one of the things that you had to figure out once you got to the U.S. was how to deal with the stress of the adjustment. I mean, we've got a whole city full of people that are in that same boat. So I'm just curious, maybe really quickly, what was it about the adjustment? And I know you said the food, but I mean, like, what specifically does that look like for you to have to? What did you have to deal with
on my daily life? Yeah,
like when you first got here, or even maybe it's been elongated to even now. Maybe it's a continued adjustment. What was that like?
Yeah. I have to work hard and for many hours a day. And I became very stressed to make my living, right? Even though I have the help of my sister and her husband, but I have 2 daughters, young daughters, right? And the daily stress was cruel, like working many hours per week and like 7 days a week. I ended up burning myself.
Wow.
I was overweight,
Yeah.
stressed, have digestive issues, was many things.
And this was a lot of this was due to the fact that you were just trying to adjust to a new setting, a new place, and new people, and all of that.
Exactly.
Wow.
I didn't know better.
Okay.
And I got lucky that I found meditation, yoga, and I have passion for wellness inside.
Okay.
And my background was excellent. My family always have fresh food on table.
That's great.
Right?
That's great.
So, but here with the many hours of work was very hard to
So you're
be on
probably
top of
resorting
that.
to like fast food or whatever else. is
Yes,
quick
a
and
lot
easy,
of
right?
times.
Yeah.
Yes, it's easier, right? And it tastes good, but it's not real food, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a lot about that, Rick. And I found meditation, yoga, and start integrate those tools in my life. And then with the other helps of other healers, people, that I came to know my body better, understand that the diet that I was eating was not healthy, was not good for me. We're all different. But we all know that fast food is not a food for us to be eating as humans. Doesn't taste food.
Yeah.
It's like more like plastic.
Yeah.
Anyways, so through that help and the knowledge and passion that I have for wellness, I start feeling better and I start growing, and I'm totally dedicated to my life, taking care of my body, my mental health, and my soul. And that's how I bring out to people. That's how I serve my community.
That's great. I love it. So Tracy, let's get on to you for a minute. And
right.
Let's hear a little bit about your story. How long have you been in Fremont or in the Bay Area? And what is your passion? What do you love to do?
Well, I've been born and raised in the Bay Area. We came here to Fremont in the 80s, so we made it in time for the big earthquake. And I remember that was definitely my first time feeling an earthquake.
Okay. And that was, where were you? What do you remember about that moment?
Well, that moment, I remember I was struggling with some algebra homework. I was in the 5th grade, and I went to Warwick. And I remember that it suddenly came to my mind to go underneath the dining room table. And
That's what they told you to do, right?
That's
what they said, yeah.
Yeah, that's the earthquake drills we got. So I called out to my mom, "Hey, Mom, we have to go underneath the table." But I think she was just too shocked. So...
Yeah. So wow. So you were here in time for the earthquake, and you lived in Fremont at that time then. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then what did your life look like after that then, after 7th grade?
Yeah. So after that, I just went on to went to private school. My parents, it was important for me to have a really good education because neither of them graduated from college.
Okay.
So they did a lot for us to enhance our knowledge and curiosity of the world.
Okay.
So they sent my brother and I to Moreau Catholic.
Okay.
And from there, I went to Ohlone.
Okay.
I was in Ohlone for 4 years. And my
Nice.
father kept saying, "Why are you in a 2-year school for 4 years?" But I was just trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
Finally picked a major, which was nursing. And I
Okay.
only learned about nursing because there were other fellow students. And they said that they were involved in nursing. And I thought, sure, why not? Let me try that. And went to San Jose State and got my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing,
That's awesome.
which is in the Guinness Book of World Records as one of the hardest degrees to get.
Wow.
Toughest.
Wow. From San Jose State or just in general?
Just the degree of nursing.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you're a nurse then, or how did you get from that point of having that degree as a nurse to now mind body wellness sort of.
Wow.
I mean, I guess that's what a nurse is kind of supposed to do, is help a person's body, right?
Yeah.
So how did you get from that point to where you are now?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. Yeah, so the areas are similar, but also a little bit different in the way that Western medicine seems to be more focused on disease management. And as a nurse of 20 years, just within a few months of working in the emergency room there at Washington Hospital here in Fremont, I saw what was happening with stress, from very simple issues of mild muscle tightness, soreness, to the more detrimental, which is maybe heart attack,
Okay.
any kinds of inflammation in the body.
Yeah.
And I was noticing these as experiences. And then within myself, I was starting to notice that I was having muscle aches.
Wow.
Working shifts, long shifts, being with people, mentally, physically, emotionally. I think nursing school did not really prepare me for how physically difficult my job was going to be, how spiritually difficult it was going to be, and how to hold space with another human.
Okay.
So struggling with all that and not even knowing I was struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just come home, get some Thai, hang back on the couch, have a couple of beers, wake up the next day just to pull my scrubs out of the dryer and do it all again.
Wow.
And I wasn't.
That does not sound exciting.
Not exciting, not healthy.
Well, and then you're dealing with people who are basically coming to you because they have problems. Like you are, part of the answer to whatever is wrong in their life in that moment, right? And so you're having to deal with that on a regular basis. I have a number of friends who are nurses, and I don't think that we as non-nurse people in the world really understand what they do, what they go through, and how, what it's like to handle all of these problems coming to them. So I can imagine that kind of a pattern of life where you're basically just doing what the minimum that you need to in order to be able to make it to work the next day,
right?
Just becomes really bad for your health, right? So yeah. So what was that transition like then, from you getting to a place where you were not taking care of yourself and that things were really rough, to where you are now? Like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah. Well, I was getting good at ignoring my body's signals, and definitely saw that showing up in different ways until one day I had horrible chest pain in the middle of my shift. I had to be relieved of my duties. It was extremely horrifying. I was extremely embarrassed. I was really ashamed. I was really guilty. I felt guilty for abandoning my patients. And I felt that I was letting the whole unit down, because now my assignment had to be absorbed by other nurses. They took me down to the emergency room, where those are the same colleagues I work with. So that was extremely embarrassing to be disrobed in front of
you're on the other side of the
colleagues.
Wow.
Yeah, they did a whole cardiac panel. And I come to find out I was having a lot of thyroid problems, and now I had to be on blood pressure medication, and I wasn't managing my stress. And that's when I started hearing about these words of yoga and stress management. And a lot of times as a health practitioner, we think, oh, I am healthy. I know what health is. I've taken courses on health. I've studied it in pathophysiology, but we don't. I think for a lot of people, we're really bad at practicing giving ourselves gentleness and time. We're just pushing through. And in the Bay Area, it's not uncommon, myself included, working multiple jobs just to survive here.
Wow.
So how do you fit in going to the grocery store, working out?
We'll be right back with the rest of the conversation in just a moment. Well, Dale Hardware is such a great place for you to find the things that you need when you're working on home projects. It's also a great place to find advice and help, to know exactly how to use the products that you're buying, to use the tools that you're using, and to know exactly what you're doing. Make sure you're doing the things the right way. There are great events that are happening all the time at Dale Hardware, and there are really great events happening all around the community. Whenever I drop into Petrocelli Homes down in Niles, Jennifer Petrocelli always treats me with great respect. Jennifer and John Petrocelli have been in the housing market for a long time. They built homes, they've helped develop homes throughout the city of Fremont, and now they are selling and buying homes for people who are trying to make Fremont their place. I don't happen to be in a place in my life where I can buy or sell a home, but John and Jennifer Petrocelli treat me like family, and I know that if they do that for me, then I know that they'll do that for you as well. So if you're in the market for buying or selling your home, then why don't you drop by Petrocelli Homes on Niles Boulevard, where you too can make your housing dream come true. Now, back to our episode. Well, I think you brought up something too, like Angela brought up the fact that transitioning here from another country and having to deal with the different patterns and rhythms and the foods and all that stuff is very stressful. I think you just hit on another part that's very common in our community, in our culture, and that is, in order to live here, you either have to be making a ton of money and or and what I mean by that is you have to be making if you want a even quasi-normal life to what a lot of the rest of the country has, you kind of have to have one individual in your household that's making, all the money, and then everybody else kind of like enjoys the benefit of that. Yeah. But for the most part, we have so many households where if it's a couple, a partnership or whatever, they're both working long hours, they're working stressful jobs. And then you might even have houses, which is not uncommon here in Fremont. You have households where you have, people renting rooms, or families, like multi-generation families that are all living within the same house, and they're trying to all work just so that they can, keep life going, and that's very stressful. That can be very stressful as well. What did it look like then for you to transition from being a nurse in that place where you started realizing all that? What were some of the things, the steps that you took to get out of that? And then what are you doing now as a response to that?
Yeah. So part of that time when I was having these new ailments, these new health conditions, another big change happened in my life, and that was the death of my father. He died while being in a hospital, and I was not allowed to be by his side. So I had more guilt building on me that, did I do everything that I can with the knowledge that I have about being a nurse? Did I advocate for him? Did I say the right things? So dealing with these health conditions, being just 30 years old, having the death of my father, I think that was my breakdown for my breakthrough to become a seeker of what is healthy. Because in the word healthy, if you break it down, it's heal thy, and I needed healing.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Did you? So you just kind of explained to me the journey of you coming to a place where you identified the problem. So where did you find the answers? Where did you find the solution to the problem?
Yeah, that journey was, I went to the nearest local yoga studio, and I didn't understand yoga. I didn't understand the moves or the poses, but I knew that I liked the feeling it gave me. And at the end of yoga practices, what we call asanas, there's the meditation, which most people might know them called as shavasana or shavasana. One of these meditations in particular, and I was still really new to yoga at the time.
Yeah.
My father came to me in the meditation, and that's when I knew I was in a different place, but still within my body. But I felt, when I saw his face come to me in the meditation, he was peaceful. And I felt free. I felt this fog of guilt lifting, and it sent me to to seek healing for myself. So I went to therapy for a couple of years. I changed jobs. I bought a new car. I began a different career. And I started being more open instead of closed off. That's when I did the yoga teacher training, and I started learning about other modalities like traditional Chinese medicine, the 5 elements. And let me step back a little bit. I'm a biracial person, so my maternal family are Buddhists.
Okay.
But when my mother came here, she converted to Catholicism. And she wanted to give me and my brother an American experience. So I can't say that I know my native language or the customs. So I was curious more about this traditional Chinese medicine because we weren't raised knowing this. And it seemed to connect a lot of dots for me. That's when I found out about integrative medicine. And I went for more training, more learning, more satisfying my curiosity of how do I make this ancient philosophy of Eastern medicine integrate with Western medicine. And that's where I found the University of Arizona, Dr. Andrew Weil Center of Integrative Medicine, and got more training there.
Nice. That's awesome. So, so do you do anything with nursing now? I mean, is like you said you had a change of career. So are you involved in nursing at all now, or?
Yeah, so when I changed my career, moved to a different hospital. So I went to Stanford. And currently, yes, I am still a nurse, and I am now turning my focus to nurses wellness, and the burnout that's happening in our profession.
That's great.
Because we're losing a lot of nurses. And I think one major thing for the public to know, I think a lot of the public hears this word nursing shortage.
Right.
But I don't think people really might understand where this is coming from.
Yeah.
And it's coming from a couple of things. It's coming from not having enough nursing schools, the difficult entrances. Well, not difficult. The competition. The competition that it takes to get into nursing school, coupled with the wisdom of retired nurses leaving the profession, new grad nurses, and a lot of newer nurses with their bright-eyed, vibrant energy are leaving. So that's why it's important to me to address burnout, because we're losing a lot of people to burnout.
Yeah, because even by your own story, which, I don't know how long ago that was, but if you were surprised as the amount of stress that you were surprised when you entered into the to the job force, how difficult and stressful it was going to be for you. You had mentioned at the very, very beginning about retreats, right? You have a retreat that you guys do. So I want to hear a little bit about that. What is the retreat that you guys offer look like, and who is it for? Like, because I'm thinking of I love the idea of yoga. Like, for me, like when I see pictures and videos of people doing yoga, I was like, oh my goodness, that looks amazing. And I have a very close friend who's a yoga instructor, and I'm just like in awe of like what she's able to do. But then I like think of like and I don't even know if there is a pose, but I just think of like when I go to the Oakland Zoo and I see like the big elephants like falling over on their side and their legs are in the air and stuff. That's kind of like the only thing I can imagine me looking like. So mine is like constantly the elephant on his back, pose or something like that. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, I personally like the idea of yoga. It seems like a very inviting discipline, but at the same time, it's like I look at that and like I don't think I'm your guy. So who is this for? What do you guys do, and who is it for?
Yeah, it's for everyone.
Okay.
We're very passionate about bringing yoga to all bodies.
Okay.
All kind of different backgrounds with experience or no experience, having not tried yoga at all.
Yeah.
So we love to guide people in restorative yoga, which is a very it's a niche that we love. Both of us have certification on that, that we support the body. So we use props, and everybody will be supported.
Okay.
They feel like they can do so many things that they will not be able in a more active yoga.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? And we also guide them in yin, which is a more like a deep experience of paying attention, turning into your inner landscape. So our retreats are filled with poses, journaling, inward experience, and great food. We like to bring some food, and sometimes our last retreat we have a cacao ceremony.
Okay.
Which was very it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So this is so these things that you're mentioning, the journaling, the yoga, the food, and all that stuff is part of what you do for the retreat that
Yes.
you guys offer.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Tracy, would you like to implement
Yeah,
on that?
tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so Angela and I, we've put together our powers of rest and relaxation. What we do is so magical that students, after we're done, they always tell us that they feel relaxed, but interestingly energized. So wouldn't that be nice? I mean, I feel that in the Bay Area where all of us have issues with sleep, we got to be everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you want to be in a place where Angela and I can take care of you, float you away on bliss, you wake up energized. We use our coaching training for journaling, because even in the Bay Area, we're getting good at ignoring our own body signals, our own, how we're feeling inside. We often listen to the narrator in our voice, but that's the narrator. We don't know how we're feeling in our bodies. So the journaling helps open up the conversation into ourselves. And then we also bring in sharing with each other so that people can step even more deeply into courage, because having courage and being brave is not easy.
Yeah.
And with the pandemic, we all got really good at isolating. We wanted to be good citizens and stay home and not spread things. And here we're challenging that. We're challenging it to share. If people feel safe doing so, they can share the things that they journaled with another person, and to see people feel unburdened by these things by saying them out loud has been a real joy. And then adding the plant-based nutrition, we both are also deeply trained in nutrition. So we share a lot of the recipes and the health benefits.
That's great.
The foods that we offer are foods that work synergistically with our body and help with stress management.
That's awesome. That's great.
They can find me, and the registration for the retreats we have been using my own website.
Okay. What is that? What is the address for that? Yeah.
It's www.theangelamoreira.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll put that in the show notes so that people can click on the link and connect with you guys directly. So that'll be really great.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so do you have any retreats coming up? Is this like once a year, or how often do we have the retreats?
We're looking at offering retreats. We're offering it several times throughout the year. Currently, it's every couple of months.
Okay.
Every 2 to 3 months. Our next retreat's going to be on Saturday, February 25th from 2 to 5 p.m.
Okay.
And it is called Trust and Receive, a heart-opening retreat.
That's great. I love it. So, have you guys already seen some stories of people that you've worked with, like their lives turned around as well? Like, are you working with people now who you've started to see their lives changed, and it gives you, because I think it's something like this. Like, if I were doing what you guys are doing, I think that as soon as I started seeing like the first person, just their life, just like make a turn for the better, and things start being better for them, I think it just would be all the reward in the world, to be able to say, I had a part in this person's life, and to make it, was on a downward spiral in a particular direction, and now it's just turned around. So are you guys able to see results like that right now?
I think in our last retreat in November, people were sharing really vulnerable and sensitive things about themselves. Almost that I felt vulnerable hearing the things people were sharing, their most deepest pains. And we were sharing it in a big group. So what that showed me is that Angela and I have an ability to create such a safe, warm, cozy place that strangers feel that they're safe and cared for, and that what they're going to say is going to be held so sacredly by someone else, like holding a most beautiful glass vase, and not letting it fall. Yeah. This is how truly transformational what we do is, and how people I see need that and are missing that connection with one another.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that in that one sentence, in the first sentence you said there, you mentioned two words that I found fascinating. I read a book, and it's been very helpful for me over the years. It's by Daniel Coyle. It's called The Culture Code. And it specifically deals with like highly successful group cultures. So like organizations that have cultures that are really good and healthy and vibrant, non-toxic, but they're very productive, very successful. And Daniel Coyle writes this book, and he also analyzes cultures that are very toxic and very bad. But he basically says every highly successful culture group has three attributes that are consistent with all of the different groups. And he said one of them was safety, which you mentioned that word, and people felt safe to be able to share it. The second one he said was these groups are they have shared vulnerability, and you mentioned the idea of vulnerability, people opening up and sharing things that, you know, making themselves vulnerable. And then the third one is like he said the repetition of core values, so over and over talking about what matters the most. So I just find it interesting that as you're talking about the things that seem to be helping people and healing them, two of the things that you said in that first sentence, safety and shared vulnerability, is something that Daniel Coyle also mentions in his book that actually makes for a healthy group environment, or a healthy group culture. So anyway, just a small comment on that.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, it's important for Angela and I to cultivate that as a group.
Right.
But equally as important is for us to empower people.
Right.
So as there are ways that we prompt people at the end on how to carry these techniques with them so that they always feel safe and within themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a lot of us, we doubt our internal safety.
That's great.
We have like that narrator, the voice in our head that's telling us, oh, don't go there, don't cross the street, don't do this, don't do that. And what if it's okay to hear that voice, but not believe that voice?
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, I'm excited to hear more about what you guys are doing. Can we follow you on social media as well? Are there places to find you on social media? Yeah.
Yeah, you can email me.
Okay.
I have an email called nurses. My email is tracy@nurseswellness.com.
Okay.
I'm also on Instagram as Nurses Wellness.
Okay.
If you're having a little trouble finding me there, you can use a hashtag on Instagram, Beyond Burnout Nurses.
Nice. I like that.
I'm also on Facebook, again with Nurses Wellness. And I have a YouTube channel called Tracy, Resiliency Within Nurses Wellness, where I share tips and tricks on how to deal with burnout, how to manage a stressful lifestyle.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds to me with all of that, it's almost hard to miss you.
Yeah. Oh, people can also check me out at the yoga studio at the Mind Body Zone studio.
Okay. And that's over in Warm Springs, is that right?
It's in the Warm Springs area by the old Fry's Electronics. I'm there on Wednesday evenings. And I like Mind Body Zone Studio. I was a student there before working there.
Okay.
And what I liked about them is they have a full wellness center. So not only yoga instructors, but a Pilates studio. We have massage therapists, life coaches, a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, which is acupuncture and cupping.
Okay.
We have a yoga teacher training and personal trainers. If people want the regular fitness with weights and machines, we have that too.
That's awesome. And you guys are both teachers there, right?
Yes,
that's
we
great.
are.
Yeah,
we
that's
are.
awesome.
Yeah, it's a special place. A really, really nice yoga studio.
Awesome.
And I just want to, on what Tracy said about our specialties, just to, we feel very humble about giving that service and listening to people. And yes, we got a lot of feedback on how lives can be transformed and how the experience they have working with us has been.
Yeah.
And we receive that with
great.
a humble and vulnerable as human can be.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I guess that's a little hard to ask, or maybe it's hard to answer, is like when you're asking, is what you're doing working? And you're like, yeah, I think it is, because there's a lot of people that we've interacted with, but you almost don't want to brag about yourself. And so I can imagine that you guys have impacted a lot of people's lives and made a difference in their lives. So that's really cool.
Yeah, we feel like that's our mission. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's our mission.
So kind of wrapping things up here a little bit, I know that, Angela, you had a little bit of a difficult start here in Fremont, but what are some of the things that you like about Fremont? Like, what are some of the places that you like to go and some of the things that you like to do?
I love my yoga community.
Okay.
I come often here at the vault.
Okay, yeah.
I love hiking.
Okay.
Enjoying just waking up, walking in my, around the block where I live in Fremont, just watching the hills.
That's cool.
I feel very blessed to be here.
Yeah, it's a great place to be able to enjoy being outside for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Tracy? What are some places that you like around Fremont?
I love a lot of things about Fremont. I love that I walk around in Target or Fremont Hub or Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, and I run into someone almost daily.
Right.
And this is a big town.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we have like over 250,000 people here, I think, and it feels like a small town, right? Sometimes you're just like, I ran into he wasn't my son's football coach, but he was a guy who was over the football league just the other day, and I was like, man, it just feels like small town. So that's cool. And
I love the diversity we have. I mean, and not only diversity, it's just the multi-generational diversity, I would say, because I think only in the Bay Area can you find a fusion of food where people are mixing the cultures of food together.
Yeah, that's true.
Like a Korean burrito. Who would have thought that that's the thing? It's so delicious. We're celebrating that with each other and
that's
mixing
great.
And matching and sharing. And that's the thing that Angela and I are doing is let's come together. Let's mix and match. Let's share and let's grow our seeds together and grow up as strong, huge, empowering trees.
That's awesome. I love that.
Beautiful.
I love it. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for being on the podcast. And is there anything else that you'd like to say before we go? Anything that we missed?
Oh, yeah. You can find me at Facebook, Angela Moreira.
Okay.
Instagram, yoga with the number 4, transformation. Yoga for transformation.
Nice. I like that.
And YouTube, Angela Moreira. I have some yoga videos there, some recipes. Yeah.
That's great. Well, we'll put all that in the show notes as well.
That's
and
awesome.
When we post the Instagram photo for this episode, we'll make sure we tag you guys in that as well. So that's awesome. Well, thank you guys for being on the podcast, and thank you for what you're doing here in the city of Fremont. I think this is a great thing. I love to hear your stories. And I hope that you have the opportunity to help change a lot of people's lives.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
This episode was hosted and produced by Ricky B. I'm Gary Williams. Andrew Cavett is the editor. Music is provided through soundstripe.com. You can find links to our social media and other content at thefremontpodcast.com. Be sure to subscribe wherever it is that you listen so you don't miss an episode. And if you're so inclined, leave a kind review so that others can find the podcast. Join us next week on the Fremont Podcast.
This is Muggins Media.